Hello everyone, I am making this video to explain some of the recent developments that have been discovered about the dungeon and its chest generation. Now, I do want to add beforehand that this was a pattern first recognized by Lomi, a fellow speedrunner, and afterwards I tried to theorize what was really going on and how the dungeon is generated. So, let's hop into T-Edit. And over here we have our dungeon. So the first chest we find is a wooden one. You might think, oh well, that doesn't matter since we're looking for the contents of golden chests, but it does matter. Let's see if we. Oh, this right here is going to be a hard mode one. Yeah, this hard mode chest does not matter. On the other hand, so you can purely ignore these. But the wooden chest you should not ignore. They overwrite what you expect to be in the golden chest. So what you want to do is imagine that a wooden chest you find is actually a golden one, and I mean you can see inside here there's just a golden key like as expected, but you want to imagine that this should be item number 1. So the first golden chest will actually have the second golden item, or the golden chest item. Now I'm gonna put up the pattern that I am almost certain of, and that is Shadow Key, Muramasa, Cobalt Shield, Aqua Scepter, Blue Moon. After that, I think we get the Magic Missile, and after that the Handgun, and then the Valor. But I want to say I'm not entirely certain about this. And what I also suspect is that once the pattern ends, any following chest is random, but prioritizes items that haven't been found yet, which means items that have been overwritten by these brown chests. You can expect to find about 2 brown chests in a dungeon, so there's always something that gets overwritten and that you have to find after all of these chests have been passed along. So in this case, in this dungeon right here, the first item, the Shadow Key, is being overwritten. So let's continue. Now there's no chests anywhere near here. There's a golden one here, but that's not a golden chest. I can see that the dungeon splits up in 2 paths here. Now this is of course where the uncertainty comes in, because you're not sure where the dungeon goes first, what generated first, but you can reasonably expect that it went down first and then went back up. So this is supposed to be the second chest, or the first, well the first chest but the second item because of the brown one. And the second item is a Muramasa, so let's see, and indeed right here, Muramasa. So let's continue. That's 1 for 1 already. There's no chest here. Again, it splits up, but I take the guess that it goes upwards first, and then just goes back down and continues. I'm talking about dungeon generation here. So we have a hard mode chest that doesn't matter. But I am predicting that this is the Cobalt Shield. It's supposed to be the third item. And indeed, Cobalt Shield comes after Muramasa, as expected. Then we continue. There's no gold chest here. Nothing down here. And the first... Oh, well, this is a hard mode chest. Doesn't count. Then is this a chest? Yeah, this is a chest. The next chest is supposed to be the Aqua Scepter. So let's see what it contains, and indeed it is the Aqua Scepter, just as predicted. Let's continue on. Another split, so we can't be certain which chest is generated first. It could have gone up, it could have gone to the right. I don't know. I'm not going to try here and predict what is first. We are expecting the Blue Moon. I'm going to check this one first. And it is indeed the Blue Moon. Next chest is this one. Again, it's possible that this isn't even the next chest. It's possible that the dungeon went down to the right and then looped around in some way and came right back. So from this point on, there is no more certainty. There was certainty at the start, like for example with the Muramasa and the Cobalt Shield, but this is the 6th chest. There's really no more certainty. That's why I put question marks there, because I haven't found enough evidence yet, but I think this is about supposed to be the magic missile. That is my guess, and indeed it is a magic missile. So then we continue on, and we just follow the dungeon. Now again, a big split up. It goes in 3 different directions, although, yeah, well, 3 different directions. Again, no more certainty here. You can just take a guess. But I suppose that the path seemed to follow this little, like this path seems to follow this little crevice here, the zigzaggy pattern. And besides, this one goes into a different color, so I'm a different background here. So I'm suspecting it goes here, then the zigzag continues here to the brown chest. Next item, what I suspect, there's only 2 items left, which is a handgun and the Valor. So I'm thinking the handgun is in here and it got overwritten. So we continue over to this golden chest right here, and that should be the Valor. And indeed, it is the Valor. So that is 8 for 8, or 7 for 7, because the Shadow Key got overwritten. And let's see if there's another chest here. Nope, no chests down here. So there is only one direction that is left, and that is upwards. No chest here. There is a chest here. Now this could be... So my suspicions were that it's random after this and prioritizes the remaining items that haven't been generated yet. So this should either be the handgun or the Shadow Key. Not certain about this. Definitely didn't have enough research. Couldn't do enough research. But yeah, handgun. Okay, handgun or Shadow Key. It is. And then the final chest is here, and this should be the Shadow Key. Yes, it is. So all of my chests were correctly predicted, although the last 2, I'm not certain about those. That was just a 50-50 shot. So let's go to the next world. So we're going to check the start. There is no chest here. You don't see any golden thingy. Like this golden thingy is the first chest. So now we didn't have a brown one. So the Shadow Key should be the first chest that we find. Let's see. And it is the Cobalt Shield. That is very strange. I think I figured it out. So what probably happened with dungeon generation was that this here messed things up. You can see that the dungeon is overrun with the crimson. So these items probably generated first, and this Shadow Key here generated first, then the Buramasa generated. Then it went right here upwards to the Cobalt Shield, and then downwards to the next chest. Yeah, there's a lot that can mess this up. Again, you can't be certain at any point. You can only have an indicator. So this one should definitely be the Aqua thingy. I don't know if I forgot the name. The Aqua Scepter, and it is the Aqua Scepter. So we'll continue the pattern. This splits up again. Very difficult to figure it out. It looks like it just continues onward and then goes down here and then goes up here. So we're going to consider this the 5th one. This should be the Blue Moon, and it is indeed the Blue Moon. No chests here, so we go upwards now. This one should be the Magic Missile, and it is a Magic Missile. Then we have a very annoying, see, this is an annoying point where there's 2 chests next to each other. The brown one overwrites what should be the handgun. So this should be the Valor, and it is indeed the Valor. And then afterwards, I suspect it's just random after the pattern has been completed, but again, not sure about that. So this should be the handgun, and this should be... well, actually, this the pattern has been completed. So this is an extra chest right here. Let's see if this is the handgun. Indeed, it is the handgun. Let's see if this is the shadow key. It could indicate that the pattern just starts over. If it's not, then it's pretty certainly random. But it is the shadow key, so for all we know, the pattern just starts over. And maybe there's another chest to show that we can find a Muramasa in there. And indeed there is, so this should be the Muramasa. And it is the Muramasa. And then we have no more chests to check. And to our final point, we will go into an actual world and try to figure out things on our own. Alright. Into World Z it was. That's why I put the teleporters in each of these worlds, so I can quickly get here. Okay, so no wooden chest on the top. So the first item remains to be the shadow key. Shadow key incoming, and it is indeed the shadow key. The next one should be the Muramasa. There's nothing here. This one should be the Muramasa, and it is the Muramasa, as you can see. Let's just quickly spawn this guy. Then we have a problem here where it splits up. Now, so this could be the Cobalt Shield, or it could also not be. I really don't know. So this is the Magic Missile. Then this other one should be the Cobalt Shield then. And it is the Cobalt Shield. Afterwards should be the Aqua Scepter. Aqua Scepter should be in here, and it is indeed the Aqua Scepter. So the dungeon splits up again, but I'm gonna go upwards first. I really don't know where to go at this point. But since the Magic Missile is supposed to be the next item, I think I can predict what went on. And indeed, we just come back around here to the suspected sixth item, which we already know is to be the Magic Missile, since I opened that a minute ago. So then we go back and where the rest of the dungeon generated. And so the next one, I think, was supposed to be the handgun, which is going to be this item right here. Oh, sorry, it's the Blue Moon. Oh, wait, no. Alright, I figured it out. So after the Aqua Scepter comes the Blue Moon, so I suspect that it went, instead I went upwards, it actually went downwards, is where the split went. I sort of forgot that the Blue Moon comes after. So after the Blue Moon is the the Magic Missile. Now it could be that it went upwards, but it also could be that this section here, as indicated by a change in background, that it just got added right at the end. But we will check further still. I mean, we're pretty much correct about all of our predictions, but I'm going to check G-edit because it becomes extremely difficult to figure out what goes where. Blue Moon was here. Then it goes upwards, and there should be or then it goes to the Magic Missile. It returns. The Magic Missile over here. Right? Then it returns. Or instead of returning, maybe the dungeon like sort of teleports. It sees that it got into a loop, and it sort of goes back to a previous position, and it makes a new path. Maybe that's how the code works. I don't know. But then it goes on, and it's supposed to put the next item, which is, I think, the handgun. But the handgun got overwritten by the golden key or by the wooden chest, whatever. And so it goes to the final item, which is the Valor. And that is indeed to be found in here. So the full if you could, I'll show you with my mouse what the full loop is and what the full pattern is. So it goes down here into this, creates the first item, the shadow key, creates the second item. Well, no, that's not the second item. The Muramasa creates the third item, the Cobalt Shield, creates, that's not it right now. Creates the fourth item, which is I think here, which is the Aqua Scepter. It goes on and it then goes down here into the blue moon. And another indicator that I completely ignored is that there's a difference here in background. So after the blue moon, it goes upwards and finds the chest here and puts the magic missile in there. Then it finds that it looped. So once the loop is completed, it sort of starts anew, and maybe that's an indicator of where it starts anew over here is the difference in background. I don't know about that. After the magic missile, it goes on to the next chest, which is supposed to be the handgun, but it got destroyed by the golden key, and then continues on to the Valor, and then it finishes here, and another loop is completed. So I think that after that loop is completed, the code once again starts to reinitiate or something, and it continues the path where the blue moon was created. Alright, so as a final example of how the dungeon generates, I've gotten this map and I've shown the path that the generation takes place in, which follows the items perfectly. Now, what you want to do right now, what you want to do first is ignore the green line that we've got over here. It's better to understand when you just pretend like you're playing normally and you go through the dungeon. First of all, you would go into this room, but this one contains a Valor. Strange, because the first chest is supposed to contain the shadow key. Now, the dungeon didn't generate this first. The dungeon generated this one first and then went along completely ignoring this. The change in background indicates this, and also the fact that this room goes off of the tunnel instead of going into the main dungeon. You know how the shaft or tunnel or whatever like goes almost straight down? It goes like diagonally down into the ground. You don't generally see rooms that are veering off from that one before the main dungeon starts. Like the main dungeon starts right here. This is where it starts, and this is the main dungeon right here. So you want to ignore this. If you ever see these kinds of rooms, know that this is not going to be the shadow key. You can open it, of course, but you won't get the shadow key out of the first room if this happens. So then you continue regular play, you go down here, you get the shadow key as expected, you get them more unexpected if you don't know about this. Get the Muramasa after the shadow key, which is as expected, but then we go into another convoluted mess. You would expect that the zigzag pattern continues like this green line shows here, but it gets the Aqua Scepter. Now we know that after the Muramasa comes the Cobalt Shield, so this was not the path it got generated in. Instead, we might want to go check right and upwards, because we know that we can predict that this is going to end quickly, and it does. If we would go to the right first, then we'd have to ignore this thing. So we want to go upwards first. However, again, this chest does not give you the Cobalt Shield, because even though you might want to go upwards first, that's not how the dungeon generated. What the dungeon did was it went to the right, as shown by the green line, sorry, and it then generated this chest, Cobalt Shield. It then zigzagged downwards, and you can see there are two zigzag paths, so we're going to pass this twice. It zigzagged downwards, got the Aqua Scepter after the Cobalt Shield, went over there, then got into this zigzag pattern, and then only then did it go up to the blue moon, and after that it went down and continued this is where the zigzag continues. Sorry, the zigzag crosses the previous path, which you see a lot in a dungeon, right? Everybody has seen this before, where there's two zigzag paths that cross one another. That's because there's a loop going on. So this is the loop. It goes to the blue moon, continues the zigzag, but instead of now going into the loop, it continues the path, makes a little bit of a triangle here with this thing, and then continues onwards. So that's an example of a dungeon that might not look like it has the pattern, but it still does. It's just that it's not about which chest you find first. It's about which chest got generated first. And sometimes it's obvious, like in this case of the Shadow Key and the Miramasa, but sometimes you just have to take a guess at it. But you'll always sort of find the earlier items earlier on in the dungeon. It would be quite strange to find, for example, a handgun in here, considering that there's only 5 chests, and then the dungeon goes on into a second part. Like, you can consider this little loop thing the first part, and then it goes into the second part. So there's definitely, beforehand that there's not going to be a handgun, there's not going to be a the yo-yo, there's not going to be the magic missile, because there's only 5 chests here. And because these 2 chests are for certain, that there will be a Blue Moon, Cobalt Shield, and Aqua Scepter. The question, of course, is which got generated where. You don't know that. So even if you have doubts about which got generated first, you can still have a reasonable guess as to where certain items are probably going to be. And this is where I'll end the video. Hopefully you've learned something and you can use this information to save some time whenever you go through the dungeon and you're just looking for one certain item or 2 items. Well, thanks for watching, and goodbye.